Next week, inshallah, will be the last class for this year. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. We'll look at the exercises for lesson number 21. And we'll do some selections from the exercises. So if you come to page 129, exercise A. I'm sorry, 20. Page 120. In exercise A, we want to practice the fi'l majzoom and fi'l al-amr, which are very similar to one another. So let's look at the first example. The original verb will be ya'ti. And how will the majzoom form be pronounced? That's written liya'ti. Right? That's the form that's given. And it means ata is to come. Ata is to come. Liya'ti means let him come. So we want to vocalize the verb as it is, but you also want to know what the root letters of the verb are, so you can see what other verbs are related. So number 2 is vocalized how? In the book. Lam yabdu. And it's originally from yabdu. Yabdu is to appear, and lam yabdu is it did not appear. Number 3 is vocalized how? I'll write it. We have the verb lam ati, and that is from the verb ati, which means I come. Lam ati means I did not come. Now the verb ata, which means ata meaning he came, if it's used with the harful jar ba, then it means to bring. So if I say ata Zaydun, it means Zayd came. If I say ata Zaydun bi kitab, it means Zayd came with a book or Zayd brought a book. And then similarly in the mudari' we can say ya'ti, he comes, or ya'ti bihi, he brings it. Number 4, we have this verb. How will that be pronounced? Liyahdi, and it means let him guide. From hada yahdi, to guide. Let's look at number 11. What is this? How would you vocalize this one? Number 11. Le asir. Le asir. And what is the form of the mudari'? If it's marfu, the normal form of the mudari', it'll be from asiru. Asiru from sayr, I travel or I go. Yasiru, he travels. Asiru, I travel. Right? And then when it's majzoom, we will drop the ya, it becomes le asir. Let me travel. However, there's also a verb in Arabic which is sara yasri, or in the first person, asri. Asri. And asri means to travel by night. So sara generally is to travel by day, sara yasiru, and sara yasri is to travel by night. So asiru, I travel from sayr, and asri, I travel by night. Suratul Isra is derived from the same root, the night journey. The Isra of the Prophet is when Allah made the Prophet go on a night journey to Jerusalem. That's Asri. And Asri, if it were to be made majzoom, we would drop the ya at the end and we would say Le Asri. So Asiro becomes Le Asir, and Asri becomes Le Asri. They're both written the same way, except for the Fatha and Kasra and the Sukun, or the position of the Kasra and the Sukun actually in this case. That will be different. Sure. Sayyar. Sayyara is from the same sayr. So Sin, Ya, Ra. Sayyara, which in classical Arabic meant caravan, in modern Arabic means car, and also Kokab Sayyar can mean a planet. That's from this root word meaning to travel. And from Saraya, we have the word Sariya. You might have heard that word in Islamic history. Sariya is a raid that was done by the Muslims when they would attack groups that had threatened the Muslims or that were at war with Muslims. So a particular battle or a raid would be called a Sariya or a Ghazwa, depending on the circumstances. The word Isra, which is part of the Mi'raj, because the Mi'raj began with the journey to Jerusalem. That was the night journey of the Prophet, known as Isra. So in many of these cases, we have to be careful how to pronounce the word. It might be a fi'l ajwaf or a fi'l naqis. Fi'l ajwaf when the middle letter is a harf al-illa. Fi'l naqis when the last letter is harf al-illa. So let me give you a few other examples from these the same lesson where this type of an issue can come up, and we have to be careful to recognize it carefully. If you look at number 8, it's written like this. Correct? Now, this can be from the root word da, ra, ya. And the fi'l mudari' is nadri, we know, the majzoom becomes lam nadri. Right? We drop the ya. We did not know. Is that clear? It can also, however, the same word can be from the root word dal, waw, ra, which means to go in a circle or to circle something. The verb is naduro. The hadith of the Prophet about Imam Ali, that Ali is with the truth and the truth is with Ali. Allahumma adiril haqqa, make the truth circle, haythuma dara, wherever dara, Imam Ali travels or circles. So dara yaduru. Naduro, we travel or we circle. And when it becomes majzoom, it would become lam nadur. So this could be lam nadre, we did not know, or lam nadur, we did not circle. Maybe we can look at a few more examples. If you look at number 10, it's written like this. It's a la in the beginning. What is this word? It can be from Rama Yarmi, which means to throw. And Yarmi, when it becomes majzoom, we'll say le yarme by dropping the ya. Let him throw. The same form can also be from Rama Yarumo, which means to intend or to want. Ramallah, you may have heard of Ramallah, the Palestinian city in the West Bank. Ramallah, God wanted or God intended. It's a sentence. Yarumo, he intends or he desires, and the majzoom form will be le yarum. And again, the same root. So you see how that works? It's the same writing, but the vocalization is different because in both cases there's a harf al-illa that's omitted. But in the top case, in Rama Yarmi, it's the last letter which is harf al-illa. It's a fi'l naqis, and we're dropping that harf al-illa from the end. In the second case, the harf al-illa is in the middle, it's ajwa, and we're dropping it from the middle. Let's look at one more example, and that's number 17. The obvious example that comes to mind is from what root? Qala, imperfect, not yaqumu, but yaqulu. Correct? And then the majzoom is lam yaqul. He did not say. There's also a verb, qala yaqilu. Qala yaqilu means to take a nap. And the masdar is qaylula. If you've heard the word qaylula, it means a siesta, a mid-afternoon or early afternoon nap. That's from qala yaqilu. That's separate from the verb qila, which means it was said, which we'll talk about either this week or next week, inshallah. So the first one, no. Qala here is قال, قالا, قالوا, قالت, قالتا, قلنا, and so on. The bottom one is قال, قالا, قالوا, قالت, قالتا, قلنا, because it's conjugated like Sara yasiru. And the top one is conjugated like Kana yakunu. Qala yakulu was one of the examples that we had. So we say Kana kuntu, Qala qultu. Right? But the bottom one will be like sirtu. Sara sirtu. This one, when it becomes majzoom, will become lam yaqil. He did not take a nap. And this verb can also be from qalla yaqillu, to be low or few. So qalla yaqillu, qalil means few as opposed to kathir. Qilla means to be few in number. So qalla yaqillu is to be few. And yaqillu, when it becomes majzoom, will be lam yaqilla or lam yaqilli or lam yaqlil. But if it's one of these first two, lam yaqilla or lam yaqilli, it will also be written like that. So let's move on now to exercise B. And the fi'l al-amr. I will just read and translate very quickly. The first one is nam. That's from nama yanamu, which means to sleep. Ud'u is from the root word da'a, call. Number 3, ihde is from the verb hada, which means to guide. All of these are commands, guide. Number 4, kun is from kana, to be. Number 5, qum is from qama, stand. Number 6, dhuq is from dhaqa, taste. Number 7, mut is from mata, die. Number 8, khaf is from khafa, fear. Let's move on to exercise C and look at a few of these sentences. Number 2. Let me read the entire sentence and then we'll go back and translate it phrase by phrase. فَلْيَقُمْ مِنْ مَقَامِهِ وَلِيَدْعُ الظَّالِمِينَ لِيَنْصَحُوهُ. So فَلْيَقُمْ, then let him stand, or so let him stand. مِنْ مَقَامِهِ, from his place. وَلِيَدْعُ, and let him call الظَّالِمِينَ, the oppressors. لِيَنْصَحُوهُ, لِيَنْصَحُوهُ, so they can be sincere or advise him. لينصحوه. So they can. No, ينصحو, the fa'il is going to ظالمين. The ظالمين are going to be the advisors. Who goes back to whoever the subject of the sentence is. The, yes, ينصحو is plural. The ظالمين, yes, are advising. And they are advising whoever is supposed to stand up. Let's look at number 4. يا أبتا إني قد جاءني من العلم ما لم يأتك. Oh my father, إنه قد جاءني, it has come to me, right? Or something has come to me, من العلم, of knowledge. So something of knowledge has come to me, ما لم يأتك. Ma here is that which. So that which has not come to you. If you want to reorder this sentence in the normal order, Ya abate or Ya abata, Inni qad ja'ani ma lam ya'tika min al-ilm. Ma lam ya'tika min al-ilm, what has not come to you of knowledge, qad ja'ani, it has come to me. So that's the expected order of that sentence. Let's look at number 8. And I'll write it. This one will be lima. Lam tadlulhum. Walam tahdihim. إذ بدا لك أنهم قد ضلوا. So it's a question. And so we'll start it with lima. Lima is a question word. Normally in Arabic and in the Quran, that will be written like this. Lima. The alif will be dropped. So you won't see in the Quran or in classical Arabic lima. But lima is constructed from the harful jar lam plus ma. For what? It's just shortened to lima. So why lam tadlulhum? Did you not guide them? Walam tahdihim, and you did not show them the way or guide them. إذ bada laka, when it appeared for you or became obvious for you, annahum qad dallu, that they have gone astray. Question? Tadlul. It's from dalla yadullu.
That means to guide.
It's to guide. Dalil is a guide.
One is God is astray. So like speaking of they sound the same, which is
Yeah, if it's with dal, it means to guide. If it's with bad, then it means to go astray. Dalla can also mean to demonstrate or to indicate, because the job of a guide is to indicate. So dalil in Arabic is a guide, but it can also be used for an argument or for a proof. And we'll say, what's your dalil? What is your guide or proof that this is true? So dalla can mean to indicate or to show. And let's look at number 15. How will that be pronounced? لا تدعو مع الله إلها آخر فتكون من الكافرين. Do not call with God إلها آخر, another Lord, another God. فتكون من الكافرين. So if you do that, you will be among the unbelievers. And let's look at a few of the sentences to translate from English into Arabic. Let's look at number 2. Let us not fear those who travel on the earth oppressing the people. So let us not fear. Lam yakhafu mean they did not fear. So we want to say the word we fear. What is we fear? It's nakhafu. Right? And we want to say as an imperative in the negative form, let us not fear. So we'll add a la and then we'll make it majzoom. Because when it becomes majzoom, it becomes a command. And the way we make nakhafu majzoom is that we will put a sukoon on the fa and then we will drop the alif. So we'll say la nakhaf. La nakhaf. And then when we add the rest of the words of the sentence, we might have to add a haraka to the fa to make it pronounceable. But the word itself is la nakhaf. Let us not fear. Let us not fear who? Those who travel. So alladhina. And then because alladhina also starts with a sukoon, right, the shadda is a sukoon, we'll have to add a kasra. La nakhafil ladhina. They travel on the earth. Yasiruna fil ard. And if you wrote alal ard, that's okay too. They travel in the earth or on the earth, oppressing the people. That is a ha. So we'll say zalimina an-nasa, oppressing the people. La nakhafil ladhina yasiruna fil ard. Let us not fear those who travel in the earth. Zalimina an-nasa, oppressing the people. Let's look at number 6. Did the Prophet not bring you clear signs from his Lord? So start with the verb, to bring something. Ata. So ata bihi, right? He brought it. So The Prophet brought. What do we say? Ata an-Nabi. Right? And how would you negate that? What's the negative for ata? So you can say lam, but then you'll use the mudari' form. You'll say lam ya'ti. Because remember, lam, it comes on the mudari' form. So you won't say lam ata, you'll say lam ya'ti. The meaning is past tense, but you'll use the mudari' form. Lam ya'ti, or you can say ma ata. You can put ma before the past, ma ata. But lam ya'ti is the more commonly used form. So we'll say alam ya'ti. Right? Did he not come? Alam ya'ti. Did he not come? And who are we talking about? Alam ya'ti an-nabiyyu. And it's not that did he not come, but did he not bring. So we have to say bi. Right? Did he not come with or bring clear signs? Ayatin bayyinatin from his Lord. Min Rabbihi. Mubin also means clear, that which clarifies or makes something clear. Ayatin bayyinatin is the phrase that is used commonly in the Quran, but grammatically it would be correct if you said ayatin mubinatin or even mubinat. So that's grammatically correct. But generally, clear signs in the Quran, the phrase that's used is ayatin bayyinat. So that's what we'll do for the exercises. And as I announced, what we'll do inshallah from here on out is we'll choose a few of the tamarin, the exercises, to go over in class for review. And then we'll try to do a few Arabic texts from the Quran or Hadith separately. And we won't go through all of the exercises that are in the book necessarily. Inshallah, we'll try to post the answers online within a week or so after the class. So we're going to be looking at lesson number 21, and we'll do that inshallah after Salat. But I'll introduce the topic of lesson number 21, and then we'll go over the notes after class. In Arabic, there are two types of verbs. There is what is known as al-fi'l al-ma'loom, and there is al-fi'l al-majhul. Al-fi'l al-ma'loom is a fi'l that tells you who the subject is, the fa'il is. So if I say nasara zaydun, right, who did the helping? Zayd. Ja'at Fatima. You know who did the coming? Fatima. If I say Qara'a Muhammadun al-kitab, Muhammad read the book. So you know who is doing the verb. Right? All of those are examples of al-fi'lul ma'loom. The subject or fa'il of the verb is mentioned and is stated. Now in some cases, the fa'il might not be mentioned by name, but the form of the verb still specifies the fa'il. So I might say, for example, Ja'ata, those two women came. We're not naming them. We may not know who they are, but the form of the verb still specifies the doer. It's two women, those two women, whoever they might be. Or ji'na, we came. Even if we're not naming ourselves, the form of the verb is specifying the fa'il. In other cases, though, the doer of the verb is not specified. Examples in English would be Instead of saying he bought the book was bought. So we don't know who's doing it, but we know to whom it is being done. If I say he closed the door, that's ma'loom. The subject is being specified. But if I say the door was closed, that's majhul. And it can be in the past tense, it can be in the mudari', in the imperfect tense. I can say she writes a letter. Taktubu risalatan. She writes a letter. Or I can say tuktabu risalatun. A letter is written. So a letter is written is majhul because the doer is not being specified. Just what is being done. So what we'll do after our break for salat is we will go over in Arabic what are the forms for the fi'l majhul. For the fi'l where the fa'il is not specified, but the object of the fi'l or the maf'ul is being specified. And in these sentences, even though it is the maf'ul that is being specified, the maf'ul in a sense is taking the place of the fa'il, because that's what we're talking about. So we don't refer to it as the maf'ul. We refer to it as na'ibul fa'il. Because it is the maf'ul in meaning. It's the object of the verb. But it is taking the place of the fa'il. It's the subject of the sentence. So inshallah we will resume class after. Inshallah we can resume with lesson number 21, which will talk about the passive form of the verb, or al-fi'l al-majhul. So if you look at the notes for lesson number 21, it says that the passive form in al-fi'l al-madi. So we'll be looking at fi'l madi, which is the past tense, or the perfect tense, and then we'll be looking at al-fi'l al-mudari', which is the imperfect tense, and there are separate rules for how it is formed in both cases. But it's very simple and very regular, so it's much easier than what we have covered until now in the verbs. Because until now we have seen different patterns for the verb, but the majhul is regular and it is formed according to a single pattern. So the passive verb in Arabic is called al-fi'l al-majhul, meaning that the subject or the doer of the verb is unknown. Now, if a verb is intransitive, that means it only has a fa'il, it does not have a maf'ul. That kind of verb can never become passive because there was no maf'ul in the first place. So a verb like dhahaba, he went, that will never become majhul. Or qama, he stood, that will never become majhul. But if it has a maf'ul, if it has an object, then sometimes we don't mention this subject, we mention the object, and that is called a passive verb. In such a case, that object, the original object, is known as na'ibul fa'il because it is being mentioned in place of the fa'il. And in English, sometimes we do have a passive verb, but we still mention the subject. We say he was killed by so-and-so. It was bought by you. It was found by me. But in Arabic, if the verb is passive, then the subject is not going to be mentioned. In modern Arabic, sometimes it is used, but in classical Arabic, either the verb will be active, the subject will be mentioned, or it will be passive, the subject will not be mentioned. So how is it formed? Let's take the verb nasara to begin. How will we form the passive? As I mentioned, it's very simple. We'll begin by taking the second last letter and giving it a kasra. So this is the second last letter, we give it a kasra. And any letter that comes before the second last letter, which has a haraka, that haraka will become a dhamma. In this case, we just have the noon, it has a haraka, it's a fatha, it will be converted to a dhamma. And the haraka of the last letter, that will stay the same. So nasara becomes nusira. Now you might wonder, there's only 3 letters. So why are we talking about the second last letter? Why are we talking about all of the letters that come before that? That's because in the future we will be looking at longer, more complex verbs. And in that case, you might need to look at more than 3 letters. So it's the second last letter. In this case, the second last letter also happens to be the second letter. But in other verbs, which are longer, it will be different. So we haven't covered it yet, but just so you know why this rule is mentioned in this way, I'll give you an example. There is a verb in Arabic, istakhraja. Istakhraja. You don't need to write this down. It's just an explanation for why the rule is mentioned like it is. Istakhraja comes from the root kharaja, it means to take out, to extract. When I want to make it majhul, what I will do is I will find the second last letter and I will give it a kasra. What does it have right now? A fatha. So I'll give the ra, second last letter, a kasra. And then I'll find all the letters before it that have a haraka, whatever that haraka is, and I'll convert it to a dhamma. So the hamza has a haraka, it's a kasra, but I'll make it a dhamma. The sin does not have a haraka, so I'll keep it. The ta has a haraka, in this case it's a fatha, but I'll convert it to a dhamma. The kha does not have a haraka, so I'll keep the haraka. And then the last letter has a fatha, I'll keep the fatha. So istakhraja, to extract, becomes ustukhrija, to be extracted. That's why this rule is mentioned like this. But it's very simple. Second last letter will be kasra. Any letter before that which has a haraka, the haraka will become a dhamma. It doesn't matter whether it's originally fa'ala or fa'ula or fa'ila. Of course, fa'ula will never become majhul. So that's not relevant. But fa'ala or fa'ila, in both cases, the majhul will be fu'ila. And the endings are added regularly. So we can look at the chart. Nusira, nusira, nusiru, nusirat, nusirata, nusirna, nusirta, nusirtuma, nusirtum, nusirti, nusirtuma, nusirtunna, nusirtu, nusirna. So those 2 changes will be made, and all of the other forms are regular. Any questions?
Is it the same for Mudari?
The mudari will come to. The mudari is a little bit different. So this is for fi'l madi only. Now, of course, we did have certain verb forms that have weak letters, and how do we deal with those? Right? So we'll look at a few of those. Right? We had examples like, for example, da'a, naha, correct? In these cases, we will make the majhul by converting the third letter to a ya. So in da'a, it will be do, I, ya. Du'iya. Naha will become no, nohiya. Question?
how would the plural form be written for this? Like if it is masculine, plural form,
The plural forms will be shortened similar to how the verb is shortened if it were ma'lum. So we have a verb like, do you remember the verb radiya? Right? So radiya, radiya, and then it will become radu. So du'iya or nuhiya will be the same way. Du'iya, du'iya, du'u. Nuhiya, nuhiya, nuhu. Just like radiya, radiya, radu. So radiya is ma'lum and du'iya is majhul, but the endings are the same. Right? We have a kasra followed by a fatha, kasra followed by a fatha. Naha means to forbid. Nuhiya, he was forbidden. Now, if the verb is muda'af, which means that if it has a doubled letter, I think we've lost our signal. If the verb has a doubled letter, then the change will not be visible in all forms. So let's take an example of a verb with a doubled letter. What is an example of a verb with a doubled letter? Sure. What's an example of a verb with a double letter? Double letter. Tayammama is, but we haven't covered that verb form, so we're not going to do those kinds of verb forms which have added letters. But dalla, right? Dalla to indicate. Just give me a moment. Let's see if we can get our system back in order. And if we can. Right, so we have the verb dalla, correct? Now we want to make it majhul. What we will say is dulla. The first letter will still get a dhamma. The second last letter is one of those two lams. There is a lam followed by a lam, right? There's two lams that have been combined, idgham. So that will not be visible. So we'll say dulla, dulla, dullu, dullat, dullata. Then from the sixth form, if you remember, there is no idgham. Right? In the normal verb we say dalalna. Right? For the feminine plural. Dalalna. And the majhul will become dulilna. So if it's al-fi'l al-muda'af, the first form will be mudda, dulla, and so on. But then there are those forms which is from the 6th form until the 14th form, the 3rd person feminine plural, all of the 2nd person, and all of the 1st person forms. Those ones do not have idgham, and they are formed just like the normal verb, right? Nusirta, dulilta, mudidta, exact thing. Any question on that?
So all of that becomes kasra.
The second last letter, yes, will always have a kasra. Whether it's fatha originally or whether it was originally kasra, but in the majhul, it will always be a kasra. If the fi'l is ajwaf, examples for fi'l ajwaf are qala, right? Qala was originally a waw. Ba'a was originally a ya. But the majhul in both cases will be with a ya. Qila, bi'a. Khafa will become khifa. So any ajwaf verb, it will have a kasra.
What is ba'an?
Ba'a means to sell. Bi'a, it was sold. Khafa means to fear. Khifa, it was feared.
The spirit, or he was made to be afraid?
Khafa is to fear something, and khifa for something to be feared.
Also,
To be made to be afraid is something else. That's a different verb. And then if there is a hamza, then it will be formed normally. So the verb sa'ala will be formed normally. The majhul will be so, la. The only thing here is that the hamza will be written on a ya. So ila. So instead of writing the hamza on a alif, we write the hamza on a ya. But it's still a hamza. So it's sa'ala, so ila. Pronunciation is unaffected. Now, in some cases, there are verbs that will have two objects, or verbs that will have a hal or a tamyiz that is mansub. And in that case, only the first object is given the position of na'ibul fa'il. And because it is na'ibul fa'il, it will be given the marfu' case. The other one remains mansub. So let's take an example. If I say qatala yazidu al-Husayna alayhi salam. In this case, how many words are mansub? How many object? There's one direct object, right? Al-Husayna. If I make it majhul, I will omit the doer, and Al-Husayna, which was the direct object, it will become the na'ibul fa'il, and therefore it will become marfu'. I will say qutilal Husay. No. It will be marfu'. But if the original sentence had been قتل يزيد الحسين مظلوما, Madluman would have been hal. Yazid killed Hussein alayhi salam in such a state that, or in the condition that he was oppressed. If we had this sentence, that madluman would remain mansub, because it is the hal. So we'll say قُتِلَ الْحُسَيْنُ مَظْلُومًا. He was killed unfairly or unjustly. So let's look at the sample sentences that we have. قد قتل الحسين بكربلاء. Hussein alayhi salam was killed in Karbala. كتب عليكم الصيام. Fasting was written over you or prescribed for you. كما كتب, as it was written, على الذين من قبلكم, for those before you. أم خلقوا من غير شيء. Or were they created? خلقوا, were they created? من غير شيء, from not anything or from nothing. خلق الإنسان ضعيفا. Insan, mankind, was created ضعيفا, in a state of being weak. So ضعيفا is mansub because it is hal. وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَهُمْ آمِنُوا. And when it is said for them or to them, آمِنُوا, believe. وَلَا يَأْبَ الشُّهَدَاءُ إِذَا مَا دُعُوا. يَأْبَ is a فعل النهي, the negative command. Let the witnesses, shuhada, plural of shaheed or witness. La ya'ba, the verb originally is ya'ba. Ya'ba, aba, ya'ba, iba. Iba means to deny or reject. Iba is the masdar. The verb is ya'ba. La ya'ba, la makes it majzoom, and when it becomes majzoom, we drop the ya. So it becomes la ya'ba. La ya'ba. So let them not deny or let them not refuse. إِذَا مَا دُعُوا, when they are called. إِن تَجْتَنِبُوا كَبَائِرَ مَا تُنْهَوْنَ. Tunhawn is the majhul form from naha yanha. This actually is mudari'. So we'll cover the rules for mudari' in just a little bit. وَأَخْذِهِمُ الرِّبَا وَقَدْ نُهُوا عَنْهُ. Nuhu is the passive majhul from naha yanha. So nuhiya, nuhiya, nuhu. They were forbidden. Is that clear so far? Now we'll leave aside for a little bit the passive form of the verbs, and we're going to talk about conditional sentences. And we'll do a little bit of this lesson and we'll finish up inshallah with our next session. In Arabic, conditionals are expressed with different words. There's different words that are used for different types of conditions. In English, we use the word if for a whole lot of different meanings. And how do we tell what if means? The verb form is different. So I'll say, if I go, I will see you there. That means that the condition is going to be in the future. If I go, in the future. If I want to make it to the past tense, I'll still use if. But I'll use a different verb form. If I went, then I will get a reward. If the condition is contrafactual, if it's not actually the case, then we will say something like, if I were you. Right? It's an impossible condition, I'm not you. So I'll say, if I were you. Right? The verb form is different. But in Arabic, there are different types of conditional words that give different meanings. In some cases, we will use the word in. In some cases, we will use the word lo. In some cases, we will use the word idha. Okay. So the way that our textbook explains it is with one type of explanation. Just to give you a very summarized, brief explanation, in is generally used for a real condition. I'm saying if this way, then blank, and if not this way, then blank. It's a real condition. Lo is used for the opposite. If it were the case. Right? So, a hypothetical condition, but we know that it's not actually the case. Right? So lo is if it's not really real. Right? Lo kuntu makanaka, if I were in your shoes. But I'll never be in your shoes, I'll never be you. So it's contrafactual. Idha is used for something that's definitely going to happen. In a sense, it's not really a conditional. So if I say, when the sun rises tomorrow, is the sun going to rise tomorrow? Of course it is. Inshallah. But it's considered to be a definite thing. And so it's not a real condition. It's not if, but when. So that's a summary of classical Arabic. Be aware though that idha is used very frequently in modern Arabic in the meaning of if. So I'll say something like idha shi'ta, if you want. In classical Arabic, that would be expressed by saying in shi'ta, if you want. That's why we say insha'Allah, if God wants. But in modern Arabic, idha is used for that meaning frequently. And so the details, inshallah, we'll look at in the notes. Question?
For the ayah, would that be if you are invited or when you are invited?
إِذَا دُعِيتُمْ, when you are invited.
Yeah,
But it is sort of a conditional. Right? So when you are invited, do this, but that's a condition in a sense, because you're not invited at all times. So the meaning overlaps with the conditional, but it's not considered to be a full conditional. So if I say, for example, even in classical Arabic, إِذَا دُعِيتُمْ فَقُلْ سَلَامٌ عَلَيْكُمْ. Then, or إِذَا حُيِّيتُمْ بِتَحِيَّةٍ فَرُدُّوهَا. If you are greeted, then return the greeting. That is, when you are greeted, do this, but it does have the meaning of a conditional. It conveys the same meaning. But there is a difference, and I'll talk about that difference in the notes. The difference between in and idha is that because in is considered a true conditional, the verb after it, if it's mudari', it will become majzoom. But إذا, the word after it, will not become majzoom.
Is there a difference between in with the hamza on the bottom and just in?
In can be written like this as well.
Does it have more meanings?
In can have other meanings besides the conditional, yes. And also, if the hamza is not written, it might be an, which has still more meanings. So let's look at the notes. Conditionals can be real conditionals or impossible conditionals. A real conditional is one which we really don't know, is it the case or is it not the case? Is it the case or is it not the case? Those ones are introduced by the word in. And in Arabic, it doesn't matter whether the verb is madi or mudari'. The meaning is the same. So I can say in nasara zaydun fa akrimhu. If Zayd helped, if Zayd helps, honor him. Or I can say in yansur zaydun fa akrimhu. Both mean the same thing. Both mean if Zayd helps, then honor him. This is fi'l madi, correct? This is fi'l mudari', correct? But the meaning in both cases is future. If he does it, then akrimhu, honor him. Of course, when in is followed by fi'l mudari', it will become majzoom, yansur, not yansuru. But if it's the madi, then it would just be like any other madi, nasara. But the meaning is the same. That's for the positive. For the negative, the most common usage is lam. So I'll say in lam yansur. Now, lam yansur is used for the past tense. Right? So lam yansur means he did not help. But when in comes before it, then it goes back to being future. So if you pay attention here, yansuru is present or future. Lam yansur is past. But then in lam yansur becomes future. Because in always changes the meaning of the verb to future. Doesn't matter whether the verb itself means past or whether it means present. In converts it to the future. Is that clear? And the second part of the conditional clause will be known as the answer or the result. And that can be also in the madi or in the mudari'. So in lam yansur yahlik, he will be annihilated. That's mudari'. Or I can use the past tense halaka. In lam yansur halaka, he will be annihilated. Both cases the meaning is future. Yahlik. Or I can say halaka. So I can use the madi or I can use the mudari', but in both cases the meaning is future. He will suffer halak or be annihilated. Yes.
If I want to select if he is not helping,
If he is not helping,
like right now if he is not, would I still say in lam yansur?
if you say that if he is not helping now, then you will say usually something like in lam yakun nasiran al-ana. So something like that kind of phrase will be used. If he, with kana, is not in the state of helping now. So let's look at the examples. We have inna insha'allahu lamuhtadun. Verily we, if God wills, lamuhtadun, are guided. Tamannawul mauta in kuntum sadiqin. In kuntum sadiqin, if you are truthful. That's similar to the question that you had. If you are truthful now, if you are telling the truth. Hatu burhanakum in kuntum sadiqin. Bring your proof if you are telling the truth. In tubdu sadaqati fa ni'imma hiya. If you manifest and show your sadaqah, then that's very good. Ni'imma is a form that we have not yet covered. It means it is very good. وَإِن تُخْفُوهَا وَتُؤْتُوهَا الْفُقَرَاءَ فَهُوَ خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ. And if you hide them and you give them to the fuqara, to the poor, that is better for you. So in تُخْفُوهَا لَعَلَّكَ بَاخِعٌ نَفْسَكَ عَلَى آثَارِهِمْ إِن لَمْ يُؤْمِنُوا. In lam yu'minu, don't think of it as past. Because in is coming before it. It doesn't mean if they did not believe, it means if they don't believe. And in tajtanibu kaba'ira ma tunhawna anhu, if you abstain from the greater sins that you have been forbidden from. Then Allah says, نُكَفِّرْ عَنْكُمْ سَيِّئَاتِكُمْ وَنُدْخِلْكُمْ مُدْخَلًا كَرِيمًا. We will atone your sins for you. Any questions? So we'll stop there for today, inshallah. Next week, inshallah, we will start class, inshallah, punctually at 7:30. And we will finish this lesson and we will start the next lesson. And because it is our last class, we'll complete the material. And then whatever time we have, we'll go over some of the exercises perhaps. But inshallah, I'll post the home exercises, the answers, so that you can look at it whenever you're able to go through the homework after class. Inshallah, class will resume sometime after Labor Day in September. What we will try to do is we will try to have 2 sessions a week. One session which will have the actual class, and that will be for the new lesson. And then what we're looking at is we'll have one session as a virtual class with one of these software programs like GoToMeeting that are used for virtual classes. And that will be for practice and for exercises. So we'll separate the two. Hopefully that will mean that our class can be a little bit shorter and more to the point. And if somebody is busy during the second session, then they can listen to the recording. But the actual class will be a live class. That's much more effective rather than having a virtual class. So inshallah, we'll be changing it a little bit to try to make it more efficient. And I will be here for part of the summer. So if you have any questions, or if you're reviewing material, you would like to get some answers, feel free to contact me if you want to set up a meeting, or if you would like to just get some questions answered by email. So inshallah we can conclude with salawat and we'll resume after.